As it gets colder, sometimes my old injuries start to hurt. The burn scars on my back. I usually don't show these burn scars to others, so I never change clothes in front of people. But one day during a sales call, a sudden downpour soaked me to the bone, so I hurried back to the office to change. Those scars. For the first time, someone saw my bare back, and my beautiful boss looked at me with surprise. Then, afterwards, my boss suddenly glared at me and said, "I've finally found you." Because of that, my sister. I was confused and didn't understand what she was talking about, but a few seconds later, I saw a luxury car appear in front of me and understood the true meaning behind her words. The sound of the wind passing through the gaps between the buildings echoed in the quiet office. Me, John Smith, working diligently every day as a member of the sales department, have been at my desk since early in the morning. However, the results of my efforts are not particularly impressive. In fact, it would be quicker to count my sales achievements from the bottom up, and the reason for this is a secret known to no one. A few years ago, I suffered a severe burn on my back in an accident. Since then, my upper body movement has been limited, and it takes an abnormal amount of time for me to exchange messages and prepare documents. This disability has slowed down my work pace, resulting in stagnant sales performance. Nobody knows why I am always slow. I've lived my life hiding the scars of my burns. It's been years since I last exposed my back in just a t-shirt. That's probably why my colleagues see me as just a slacker. Every time I feel their cold stares, my heart grows a little heavier. The pain from the burn has faded over time, but the scars on my heart never heal. I hide these marks and never show weakness in front of others. However, I am deeply troubled by how these scars affect my work and lead to misunderstandings from those around me. Amidst the hustle and bustle of the office, I always work alone, at my own pace. But I've never regretted that day. Saving that girl was the only moment in my life I could truly be proud of. However, this hidden past would eventually bring a new turning point in my life. And as a salesperson, and as an individual, I was destined to grow significantly. But that's a story for another time. John is late again, huh? I hear a mocking voice in the morning. In reality, I'm not actually late. I just start working a bit later than my colleagues. But this slight difference deepens the isolation I feel from them. At lunchtime, I'm eating alone as usual. The other members of the office gather at a large table, chatting lively. I tried once to join them, but the cold stares and sense of alienation soon pushed me away. One day, before the morning meeting started, the manager made a special announcement. Starting today, Ms. Johnson from the head office will be training at our branch. She will introduce new strategies to improve sales performance. I asked for everyone's cooperation. The conference room door opened, and a woman entered. Her beautiful appearance and confident demeanor immediately caught everyone's attention. Michelle Johnson greeted each of us politely and quickly earned the respect of the department with her professional attitude. Unlike my coworkers, I had been working quietly in my own way. Despite their cold looks and sneers, I kept trying silently to improve my performance. But honestly, the results weren't great. When I heard the real reason Ms. Johnson came for training, it pained my heart. I knew our branch's performance was low, but I didn't realize it was serious enough for someone from the headquarters to come directly. Her mission, I guessed, was probably to deal with low-performing employees like me. But Ms. Johnson's approach was entirely different from what I had imagined. She spent time talking to each employee, carefully analyzing their strengths and areas for improvement. There was no hint of criticism or condemnation in her approach. Rather, it seemed focused on maximizing each of our abilities. Days passed, and Ms. Johnson came to my desk. "Mr. Smith, could I have a moment of your time? I'd like to discuss your work and think together about some ideas." At that moment, my heart was filled with nervousness. However, her eyes were warm, and I felt that she was not an enemy trying to fix me, but an ally. Our conversation was unlike anything I had experienced before. She didn't directly touch on my disability, but she gave me concrete advice on overcoming the obstacles I faced at work. She also suggested new sales strategies that played to my strengths. Ms. Johnson grew up under the high expectations of a major corporation's president. The pressure from the president was immense, always demanding the best results. Michelle achieved remarkable success at the headquarters at a young age, meeting those expectations. But for her, work was not just about chasing results, it was also a means to prove her own value. The true reason Ms. Johnson was sent to our branch, while officially for improving our sales performance, was also to present her with a challenge. The president wanted her to demonstrate her strength in a tough environment and to develop true leadership. I was determined to try out the new sales strategy. My sales methods had clearly not been effective in yielding results. After receiving guidance from Ms. Johnson, I realized I needed to fundamentally rethink my approach. The first thing I tried was an approach that made full use of digital marketing. I focused on email marketing to clients and started creating customized presentations. However, this method didn't bring the expected results. The response was lukewarm, and many clients overlooked it. This failure was a big blow to me, but it was a learning process, and I didn't give up. Later, I completely changed my strategy and focused on a more human approach. I deepened my relationships with each client, striving to truly understand their needs. One rainy day, I personally delivered a product to solve an urgent problem a client was facing. This action earned me the client's trust and significantly increased our transactions. This success became a great confidence booster for me. I became even more convinced that I could overcome obstacles and build strong relationships with clients. This experience also prompted me to try a similar approach with other clients. I realized the value of building long-term relationships by supporting each client's business. This new sales strategy gradually gained recognition within the branch, and I received positive feedback from Ms. Johnson. Our collaborative relationship strengthened, and the overall atmosphere of the branch became brighter. Since Ms. Johnson's arrival, something had started to change in me. This change began to influence the attitudes of my colleagues as well. When the new sales strategy I proposed achieved significant results, I felt recognized by my colleagues for the first time. That afternoon, one of my coworkers approached my desk and spoke to me. "Smith, I'm counting on you for the next project." That simple sentence helped alleviate the sense of isolation I had felt for so long. After that, I became more proactive in communicating with my colleagues. I was clumsy at first, but gradually, I managed to close the distance between us. Especially after receiving support from Ms. Johnson, it seemed my colleagues were beginning to notice my changes. Following the success of the project, I started actively sharing my opinions in team meetings, and increasingly, my suggestions contributed to the team's results. Then one day, a colleague who had previously been cold to me said, "Smith, we want you to lead the next project. What do you think?" Hearing this, I was deeply moved and felt that I had finally taken a solid step forward in this office. Through these sales activities, I was able to overcome my weaknesses and discover new strengths. This was not only a significant advancement for me but also for the entire branch. Thanks to Ms. Johnson's support, I began to find new confidence within myself. She not only helped me find solutions to the problems I was facing, but also provided me with opportunities to grow. She had made remarkable achievements at the headquarters at a young age. I was deeply interested in her logical and clear guidance methods. However, it was also true that her guidance was strict. Many older employees, holding on to old-fashioned beliefs that women should not be in prominent roles, were reluctant to accept her words. In such an environment, I tried to seek her advice, but she initially brushed me off coldly. Yet, seeing her work late into the night for the branch, I started to feel a desire to support her somehow. On the day a typhoon was approaching, the sky turned the color of lead, and the wind gradually increased in strength. Normally, everyone would stay home and quietly wait for the storm to pass. But I didn't have that option. There was an impending deadline for a crucial delivery to an important client of the company, and I feared that any delay due to the typhoon could fracture the trust we had built over the years. That morning, when I arrived at the office, I made up my mind. I would deliver the goods, no matter the weather. My decision might have seemed like madness to my colleagues, but for me, it was a sense of responsibility as a bridge between the company and the client that compelled this choice. Amidst the raging wind and rain, I headed to the company's warehouse and picked up the necessary goods. I loaded the cargo into the car and slowly but surely set off towards the destination. The city was almost entirely shut down due to the typhoon's impact, and the streets were eerily quiet like a ghost town. The wind occasionally shook the car, and the rain nearly blinded my view. However, it was my sense of duty that kept me moving forward. When I finished the delivery, I was completely drenched, but I received words of deep gratitude from the client. In that moment, I felt as if all my hardships had been rewarded. Yet, on my way back, I was unaware of what was to come. This action would lead to an unexpected reunion, linking memories of the past with the present. Returning to the company, soaking wet, I was heading towards the locker room when I crossed paths with Ms. Johnson in the corridor. My encounter with her was as unpredictable as a typhoon, yet it felt like fate. When she asked me why I was wet, I felt like I was becoming something more than just a salesperson. However, her reaction would take a direction I had never anticipated. This series of events was signaling the beginning of a new chapter in my life. The typhoon brought not just severe weather, but the start of a new story connecting my past and future. "Mr. Smith, are you okay? Why are you so wet?" There was worry in her voice. I briefly explained the situation. I delivered the goods myself because of the typhoon delay. I didn't want to inconvenience our client. She seemed momentarily lost for words, then spoke as if making a decision. "That's really commendable of you. But why go to such lengths?" At that moment, as I took off my jacket, the scar on my back was exposed. Her expression changed dramatically. "I've finally found you. Because of you, my sister." I was frozen in place. Unable to comprehend the meaning of her words, I asked, "What do you mean?" But she didn't answer immediately. Instead, she told me to change and meet her at the entrance, then quickly left the spot. As I changed in the locker room, I pondered her words. My sister. Those words awakened a distant memory. The girls I saved from that fire. Could one of them have been her sister? In that moment, a long-forgotten memory came flooding back. I was raised in a single-parent home, having lost my father in a traffic accident. His death had a profound impact on me, and I vowed to become a strong man who could protect others. The desire to be strong and protective like my father became my emotional anchor. Then there was that day of the fire. The blaze in an old warehouse on the outskirts of town became an unforgettable memory for me. Rescuing neighborhood children from the fire, I sustained severe burns due to my brave actions, drastically altering the course of my life. I remember saving a crying girl outside her house and her sister, who was trapped inside. Before the firefighters arrived, I didn't hesitate to run into the flames. The day I safely rescued the sister and was thanked by both girls. However, afterwards, the apartment burned down, and we all went our separate ways. The weeks I spent in the hospital after the fire were some of the longest and most painful of my life. Although my physical wounds gradually healed, the emotional scars were not so easily mended. I constantly agonized over how my courageous actions that day had changed my life. After being discharged from the hospital, I struggled to adapt to a new normal. Always wearing long sleeves to hide my burn scars, even in summer, forced to wear thick clothing. Reintegrating into society wasn't easy. Many people felt uneasy about my changed appearance. But thanks to the support of my family and a few friends, I gradually began to reclaim my sense of self. When I returned to work, I embarked on a new challenge in sales. However, my reduced physical mobility significantly impacted my work efficiency, and I faced cold stares from those around me. Still, I didn't give up. Remembering the smiles of the girls I saved that day, I continued to do my best. The day Ms. Johnson arrived at our branch, I felt a sense of nostalgia in her presence. Her efforts and dedication gradually moved me. Listening to her new sales strategies, we began collaborating to achieve better results. She became a new beacon of hope for me. As my sales performance slowly improved, a strong bond based on respect and trust was formed between us. Yet, I had no idea that everything would change the moment she learned about my past. Could that girl have been Ms. Johnson's sister? What did her words mean? Questions and anxieties raced through my mind. While waiting at the entrance, my heart was torn between anxiety and anticipation. I couldn't imagine what we would say to each other or how my relationship with Ms. Michelle Johnson would evolve from here. Eventually, a black luxury car slowly pulled up in front of me, cutting through the quiet streets. When the door opened, it was Michelle who emerged. The moment I saw her, the tension in my heart intensified. The words she spoke in the car deeply resonated with me. Tears were brimming in her eyes. "I'm sorry for saying such things out of the blue. I just realized that you were the person who saved my sister. I can't believe that the hero she always talked about was you." Her words cleared the confusion in my heart. It wasn't anger, but gratitude she expressed. She took a deep breath before continuing to speak. "I apologize for getting upset. No, I was just surprised by the sudden revelation. But to think that my act of saving your sister would connect us like this." She nodded, her words flowing. "Yes, ever since the day my sister was saved, she always referred to you as her hero. But I never imagined it was really you." Hearing this, I felt a profound sense of emotion. That day, I was just there by chance and did what I could. But to think that it was your sister. Miss Johnson showed a faint smile. "If you hadn't been there that day, my sister and I might not be here today. I'm truly grateful." We shared our thoughts, reflecting on the past events. Her tears gradually turned into smiles, and the atmosphere between us warmed. "Mr. Smith, I look forward to continuing working with you. I hope today marks a new beginning for us both." "Yes, Miss Johnson, I hope so too." She mentioned that she had been observing my behavior while at the branch. Despite the lack of cooperation from other employees, she noticed that I was the only one stepping forward and offering support. She had sensed the possibility that I might be her past benefactor. Her intuition was spot on. The car passed through the city center and eventually arrived at the headquarters building. I was still harboring questions about where I was being taken. Miss Johnson, noticing my anxious expression, gently spoke. "Mr. Smith, don't worry. The place we're going to might surprise you, but is not for a bad reason." "But why are we going to the headquarters? Is there some kind of problem?" My voice trembled slightly. She smiled softly and reassured me, "There's no problem. On the contrary, it's because your actions have been recognized that this opportunity has been given to you. Trust me." As the elevator ascended many floors and we stood in front of the president's office, my heart started to beat faster. Michelle knocked on the door, and a voice from inside said, "Come in." As the door opened, a spacious room filled with sunlight greeted my eyes. The incoming light accentuated the room's luxurious decor. I was still trying to comprehend what this room signified. Michelle gently took my hand, offering encouragement. "It's okay, let's go in together." The warmth of her hand slightly eased my anxiety. We slowly proceeded into the room. Being led to the president's office was something I had never imagined. Still feeling somewhat bewildered about what this situation meant, I started to feel a sense of reassurance being next to Michelle. This chance reunion was leading to a new development, and I believed that whatever it was, I could face it with Michelle by my side. In the center of the room, behind a large and imposing desk, were President Johnson and his secretary. I learned was Michelle's father is the president, and her sister is his secretary. I was greeted with deep gratitude from both, realizing that my actions had set significant events in motion. Mr. Johnson appeared stern at first glance, but his eyes held a kindness in them. "Please, have a seat, Mr. Smith." Mr. Johnson welcomed me warmly, his words filled with calmness and compassion. I sat down, tense but attentive, waiting for what he had to say. "Mr. Smith, your work at the branch has been highly regarded here at the headquarters. It's very reassuring for us." "Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I was just doing what seemed natural to me," I responded. "Your actions. There's another significant reason we wanted to talk to you." Puzzled, I asked, "What might that be?" Mr. Johnson took a deep breath and then began to speak to all of us in the room. "A few years ago, I heard a story about a young man who saved a girl from a fire. That girl happens to be my daughter. She's her sister." Michelle quickly added, "Mr. Smith, since that day, my sister has always called you her hero. You hold a special place in our family." In that moment, Alice, who is the secretary and Michelle's sister, stepped forward and continued speaking to me. "Thank you so much. I never imagined that the person who saved me that day was you. To be able to express my gratitude in person like this is something I never thought possible." I was overwhelmed but managed to respond sincerely. "No, I just reacted to what was happening in front of me. But standing here now, in front of all of you, Knowing that my actions had such a big meaning makes me truly happy. Mr. Johnson continued with a smile. That courageous act has shaped who you are today. Michelle was deeply moved when she found out you were the one who saved her sister. She holds you in high regard and strongly wishes for you to work at the headquarters. Mr. Smith, please consider working with us. The hero for our family on that day might now become a part of our team. Don't you think this is also some kind of destiny? All of us in the room felt the connection between the past events and the present, realizing we were ready to take a new step towards the future. My heroic act from the past was leading to a new opportunity in the present. This chance meeting felt like fate, and a new bond had formed among the four of us. I listened, and my heart swirling with complex emotions. I never imagined that a moment from my past could have such a significant impact on my current life. I was moved by the offer. However, there was unfinished business in my heart. I had a mission to improve the branch and to succeed in the reform I had started with Michelle. Mr. Johnson, I started, struggling to find the words, then decided to be honest with myself. Saving your sister was also an important event for me, but right now, I want to dedicate myself to my work at the branch and grow there. Mr. Johnson nodded deeply and said, I understand, Mr. Smith. We respect your decision. Remember, the doors of the headquarters are always open for you. As the door to the president's office quietly closed, Michelle started walking beside me. The soft light filtering through the hallway windows illuminated her face. Mr. Smith, I think the decision you made just now shows great courage. Thank you, Michelle. But for me, it's less about courage and more about making the obvious choice. Ever since the day of the fire, when I saved Alice, I've been committed to doing the best I can. That hasn't changed. That day, when you saved my sister, our whole family has been grateful. Your brave act is now impacting not only your life, but also our company. It might be, but I believe meeting Alice and you again is also some kind of fate. I want to cherish this connection and work together to improve the branch and our future. I feel the same way. Your dedication at the branch and our collaboration will surely lead to a wonderful future. My father also seemed genuinely happy to respect your decision. As our conversation ended, we left the president's office. At that moment, I had a new resolve in my heart. The conversation with Mr. Johnson and Michelle solidified something within me. My past experiences have shaped who I am today, illuminating the path to the future. Committed to continue working at the branch, dedicating myself to leading it and my colleagues towards a better future. The next morning, as I stepped into the office, it was filled with an unusual buzz of energy. At my desk, I found a pile of unfamiliar documents and an uncountable number of emails. As I began checking them, I realized they were all related to my actions during the typhoon. Mr. Smith, you did an incredible job, the manager announced during the morning meeting, bringing me to the front. My actions had been shared with other companies by the clients, resulting in numerous new business opportunities for me. This news spread throughout the branch, and my reputation changed overnight. The attitudes of some who had been negative towards Michelle and me began to shift, and those who had been non-supportive were eventually. The new employees who joined our company brought fresh vitality to our team. They had heard about me, and it seemed they were eager to grow under the leadership of Michelle and me. Our teamwork grew stronger day by day, and we achieved success in project after project. Through these successes, Michelle and I spent more time working together, deepening our mutual understanding. We began having lunch together during break times and often stayed late to discuss project progress. One evening, as we watched the sunset from the office window, Michelle spoke softly. John, we make a great team. Let's keep up the good work together. Her words filled me with a warm feeling. I turned to her, serious, and replied, Michelle, I truly agree. But if it's all right with you, I was hoping we could become more than just a team. John, I was thinking the same thing. I'm really happy to hear you say that. We looked into each other's eyes, acknowledging that the time we had spent together was more than just that of colleagues. The soft light of the sunset seemed to bless the beginning of our new relationship. Michelle, I hope we can support each other not only in our professional lives but also personally. Michelle nodded gently and reached out her hand. We held hands, excited for the new story that was beginning. The sunset viewed from the office window brightly illuminated our future. I was sincerely looking forward to every step we would take together in what promised to be a beautiful journey ahead. From that day onward, we decided not only to walk together as work partners, but also as life partners. As a new breeze swept through the branch, our relationship embarked on a fresh start. From an unexpected reunion to a fateful development, our story reached the best possible conclusion. The bond that formed between Michelle and me stemmed from actions in the past, now weaving a new future. Our story marks both an end and a beginning. Together, we believe we can overcome any challenge that comes our way.